Y Yellow, E Edward, J Jeremy, Newark, J...
Life here is very frustrating professionally because we simply don't have the access to the news. You cannot pick up a phone and ring somebody. I mean, once somebody phoned me up from London and said, will you ring up Deng Xiaoping's press officer and see whether he's in good health? That, in the context of China, is a question so meaningless as to be ridiculous. Deng Xiaoping's health is a closely guarded secret. He doesn't have a press officer, and if he did, I wouldn't have his telephone number. There are Chinese who are authorized to deal with foreigners, and one talks with them, and one tries to find out about their daily lives. Because most journalists here, I think, although we do the political stuff, we're much more interested in the way the Chinese live, what their hopes and aspirations are, you know, whether they enjoy life. After all, here we are living in a country of 1,000 million people, and who do we see? I mean, a few dozen Chinese and other foreigners. And it's a ludicrous paradox, because people back home are much more interested in how do the Chinese live than they are in who has replaced who on the Politburo. It can get very lonely here. I remember during the Falklands crisis, when that dominated radio and television in Britain for 2-3 months, however long it was. I felt here in China, when actually nothing very much was happening, like one of those Japanese soldiers who's not been told the Second World War is over. I mean, you're sitting there, but nobody knows or cares whether you're there. And you have to get out of China fairly regularly if you're going to keep your sanity, I think.
And while the basic infrastructure of peace still remains, the diplomatic relations, the trade, the open borders, more and more Egyptians are arguing that Egypt's peace with Israel was a mistake which merely provoked more violence in a region which has had its fair share of war. This is Bob Jobbins reporting from Jerusalem.
The Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Begin, he listens to the BBC every morning. We know that King Hussein of Jordan listens. The late President Sadat used to listen as well. And they listen because from the BBC they can get some kind of overall picture of what's happening. People do tune in, particularly in times of crisis, at times of war. They feel that they need more information than they can get from their local radio stations, whether they're the Arab stations in Damascus or Beirut, or the Israeli radio station here. They want more information than they can get. They want it from, if you like, a more objective source.
I've just been to France. Usually when we do an interview, we tend to interview an MP or a leader or the union. We very rarely have people in the street, and they're very important. So I thought it would be a good idea to see if they were conscious of what was happening in Britain. Do they criticize it? Do they respond to it?
Madame, qu'est-ce que vous pensez de la Grande-Bretagne? Ben, moi, je ne suis pas très au courant, mais enfin, quand j'entends comment ils vivent plus malheureux que les Français. Mais maintenant, nous, on va les rattraper dans le malheur. Ils sont malheureux parce qu'il faut faire des restrictions, mais nous, on ne pouvait pas vivre sans restrictions. Et on va être obligé de vivre avec des restrictions.
Madame Thatcher, par exemple, qu'est-ce que vous en pensez de cette dame?
Il y a une chose qui m'a déplu, c'est la mort de ces jeunes gens-là. Ça, je trouve que c'est une tache à son blason, mais pour le reste, pour les Malouines, pour nous, on dit les Malouines.
Le gouvernement français a soutenu la Grande-Bretagne, a été le premier en Europe.
Je ne pense pas que le gouvernement français aurait pu penser que Mme Thatcher allait si loin. Je ne pense pas que la France aurait réagi de la même façon. On est peut-être un peu moins rigoureux. Je crois.
Dans la communauté économique, par exemple.
Moi, ce qui me sidère le plus, c'est l'attitude des gens, par exemple, qui votent travaillistes, qui sont, et vraiment, d'après la presse, qui sont tellement opposés à l'idée de la Grande-Bretagne dans l'Europe. Pour moi, je ne comprends pas cette attitude.
It turned out superbly. Some people that you stop in the street and you think, ah, well, we're going to make a very bad interview. They probably don't think, they don't even know that Britain exists. Well, it was exactly the opposite. At the moment, French people are very interested in Mrs. Thatcher because they're wondering to what extent you can actually have a very firm hand and to what extent it can succeed. So, of course, if she manages to end a strike, it's marvelous for the French. It means that's it. We had enough of weak governments, and it works. So, really, that is the main point of interest.
Tune in at 13:30 for The Other Side of Silence. How do you like the show so far? Worth staying tuned to the World Service of the BBC? Good. Well,
as a writer, I preferred, in this book anyway, to stand in judgment on them.
This is page 3.
Cues 1 to 16.
Almost time for me to go.
Yes.
My train's due in about 5 minutes. You were very good.
I think you can afford to come work a little closer in than that. What I would do, Charles, if you move your chair around to the, sort of like that, and work just across the mic a little bit, probably would be easier. Shirley?
Hello, sweetheart.
I think I do need some beryl in the background, beryl and myrtle, some myrtle in the background. So, a bit of chat to match up with what's going on over there with the washing up.
Beryl, you've forgotten the lettuce in the ham sandwiches.
Sorry, Mrs.
I told you about it yesterday.
Yes, Mrs. Baggett.
And go and clean that table if you don't mind.
Yes, Mrs. Baggett. Right away, Mrs. Baggett.
What's that?
Okay, hold it there. That's fine. Play Beryl's line a bit further back, can you?
Sorry, not my fault.
They're broadcasting next door.
I know. Well, they shouldn't have paper-thin walls. Oops, how are you, kid?
Oh, all right. Have a good journey.
Got held up round Bush House. Been sat out there for 10 minutes.
How are the demonstrators?
That's a nice name. Crescentia.
Right.
Crescentia Rosario. That sounds...
Very good.
There's somewhat... Actually, the thing I like about this more than anything else is the messages that people send to each other. You know, the you are the light of my life. I mean, here we say things like, love you and miss you madly, see you soon, doll, round the back of my bike sheds. But whenever all these different countries have lovely ways of expressing their desires, don't they?
That's right, yes.
They're really nice.
Yeah. There's a good one on over here, look.
Which one? Roy Millett from
Kaiser Gunge.
Gunge.
Kaiser Gunge.
I wonder if half the people around the world know what gunge means in English. Should be all right. Once it starts thumping away. Come on, thump. Yeah. That's okay.
Sorry. Right, stand by.
Almost time for me to go.
Yes.
My train's due in about 5 minutes.
I think that's okay. I might actually do one more of those. You choose scripts to be heard really everywhere. In Montevideo, in New York, in Tokyo. And when we get into the realms of anything which is specifically British, you've got to be quite careful, because it's no good doing a play which depends upon the fact that British people do their shopping in supermarkets or shops. Well, 95% of the world's population don't. They go to a market and barter for things. Details like that can rule out a lot of themes. However, there are, if you think about it, lots of universal themes. A lot of other nations could challenge us in many fields, but I don't think anyone comes near us in dramatic literature. That is known worldwide, and people actually want to hear these kind of plays. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of students studying for their O and A levels, not in Rotherham or Caterham or Penzance, but actually in little tiny villages in West Africa and in India and in South America.
And how else can they hear these plays, let alone played by the very best actors in the world?
Wait to see you into yours.
No, no, please don't. I'll come over to your platform with you. I'd rather.
That's excellent. No problems there at all. We'll buy that. Some people say that the audience for drama on radio in the United Kingdom is declining. Our audience is actually growing, and it's a big, new, young audience. It's probably in the region of 30 million. And that's, well, I hate to say it, but that's about 3 times the biggest BBC One drama audience.
Why can I never get in this studio? Yes, it's a jolly good show from the BBC's Wild Service. This is the programme that made more people switch to television than anything else. But you've stayed with us, haven't you, because you're lovely. If you do get your name read out on the air, then you get one of our BBC guaranteed unshrinkable T-shirts as long as you don't wash them. So, we'll start off today.
Bush House is like a cross between the Tower of Babel and a beehive. There are people buzzing away in little cells, incredibly dedicated to what they're doing.
Okay, here it is.
one word about the Caversham modernisation plan.
And on that one, you got Flutter.
Dancing? Yes, we'll go up now. We'll go up. Okay, thank you.
Well, I think it all depends on the state of the Iranian army, whether they could advance on Iraq properly and take over Baghdad.
Well, it will be interesting to see what Jordan will do.
Mengine ya kisiasa, mengine mambo ya kawaida, mengine mambo ya sayansi.
Wie konnte wirklich jemand ein Prefix verwechseln mit etwas, was nicht um eine Vorsilbe ist, um Gottes Willen? Und sie, she should know better.
Sur une plage publique, non. Non, ils sont pas dans le contexte naturel, non. Je suis pas d'accord.
Moi, j'aime bien.
Ouais, t'aimes bien? Et alors, par contre, parce que tu vois, parce qu'elle disait, tu vois, elle disait, moi, quand je vois des femmes, au bout d'un 2 jours, bon, ça va, je regarde les trucs des femmes.
This one is 7 letters again. E for Edward, blank R for Robert, blank R for Robert, blank blank. Such parts as this are damaged with loud instruments.
And Cliff, I know, is absolutely marvellous. Wonderful bass voice. Ili habari juu ya vifaru vya Tanzania. Unajua wanajaribu kuhifadhi vifaru kule Tanzania.
Mimi hapa nataka Kenya.
M for mother, blank S for sugar, blank E for Edward, blank blank. Vessels with no manservant.
Il manque totalement de sensibilité, anyway.
Un homme. Est-ce que ça lui fait quelque chose?
Premier jour, deuxième jour, troisième jour, quatrième ou 15e jour. Après 45 ans, je continuerai.
Mais enfin, quand tu vois une fille en maillot de bain, ça ne te fait pas plus quelque chose que de voir la fille, enfin, de voir...
Non, mais je suis quand même sensible
I'm head of the BBC Somali service. It was a shock to us as well as to our listeners when last year the British government had in mind to cut our service along with others. It would have destroyed very valuable links between the BBC and an important part of the Horn of Africa.